So are there any questions on the cantering thing before we progress to the cattle? Yes, sir?
What am I doing wrong when I'm ending up the crossfire? How am I setting that up wrong?
Good deal. The question is, what am I doing wrong when my horse crossfires? And what crossfire means is that the horse is in the wrong lead in one end or the other. Let's say, for example, I'm going left, and my horse is in the left lead in the front, but the back end is in the incorrect lead, which would be the right lead. The question is, what are you doing wrong? Sometimes you're not doing anything wrong. Sometimes, like I notice that a lot of times on really young colts, they don't develop a lot of strength yet because they don't have the coordination or the muscle strength to be correct, especially with a rider. Sometimes it's a sign that I've got a horse that's got a little bit of weakness in their loins, and sometimes it's lack of coordination. The other question I might have is what can I do to correct it? Sometimes I let a horse figure out that they're working their butt off, and it's hard for them. So I just keep them going. But here's the key. I learned this from Jack Brainerd a long time ago. The number one reason that horses either pick up the wrong lead or they don't change leads properly is because we take the cue off of them too early. How does a horse learn from pressure or learn from the release of pressure? Okay? So if you're ever going to be late with a cue, I'd rather you be late on the canter cue or the lead change cue. Why? Because I want you to be very certain that the horse is correct before you take the leg off. All right, so for example, I'm going to ask her to pick up the left lead. And so far this mare's been really good about picking up her leads. I'm going to try to do it as I'm going away because I want you guys to notice, see my right leg now back on the hip? My left leg is forward. Now I'm just going to ask for more rhythm and ask her to pick it up. Now that I know that she's in it, that leg's going to come off. If I wasn't sure she was in it, I'm going to leave that leg on there. Okay? But if I'm certain that she's in it, now it's going to come off. So now let's get back to the deal about your horse maybe, well, your horse cross-cantering. So if it's cross-cantering, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that leg on. Doesn't mean I'm poking a hole in it. Doesn't mean I'm going to add more pressure to it. And here's why I'm not going to add more pressure to it. The horse is already under pressure. She's already uncomfortable, or he, already uncomfortable, and it feels your leg there, I promise. And I'm just going to keep it loping, keep it loping, keep it loping. And I might even do what I call driving drunk. I might drive and do a circle. I might do part of a circle. Then I might do a really tight circle. No, I'm just going to go all over the arena, but I'm not going to take that leg off. But I'm going to feel, in the very minute this horse changes that lead in the back end, I'm going to keep loping, but two things are going to happen. Number one, the horse is going to be more comfortable, and now I'll take my leg off. You see? Now, over time, that horse is going to go, man, that dadgum cross-cantering's hard work. But what happens so many times is it's uncomfortable for us, so guess what we do? We stop and we start all over. And the horse says, wait a minute, the release of pressure, I guess I was right in doing that. So they get really good at being wrong. Okay? For example, and I'll show you how simple this can be. Let's just say that somebody taught you how to spell cat. Okay? What does the word Karen, the name Karen, start with? C or a K, right? What sound does it make? Now spell the word cat with a C. What sound does that make? So let's say somebody spent their whole first several years of your life teaching you to spell cat with a K. And then finally somebody that you really trust, that you really think has a tremendous amount of credibility says, man, I'm sorry, but you've been spelling cat wrong all these years. Cat's really spelled with a C. And you believe this person. This person's got great integrity in your eyes. And you start looking around and you go, oh my goodness, everybody's been right all these years, I've been wrong. Cat is spelled with a C. And yet you learned it in your formidable years spelling it with a K. Every time you write the word cat, I promise you, you're making a mental note not to do what you've been trained to do, but do what you now believe is correct and what you know in your heart is correct. But your instinct is still to write a K. That's why foundation training is so important. That's why we've got to be very careful whenever we're training a horse, which I mentioned a little while ago. Anytime you're interacting with them, these guys or those guys, somebody's training somebody. So if you're going to claim to be the teacher, you better have something to offer. And you better make sure you're correct before you tell them how to spell cat. Okay? So whenever you're asking for that lead, be certain before you take the leg off. And when you're really certain you take that leg off, the horse is going to go, okay, now I got it. Now, let's say that the horse picks up the lead and you're in the incorrect lead and you leave the leg on. Maybe, just maybe the horse is thinking, he keeps asking that same question. I keep answering the question, but he won't tell me it's correct. Maybe the horse will assume later that maybe she's not correct. And she's going to get so uncomfortable in her life or whatever else is going on with her that she's going to try a different answer. When she tries, you're going to give her a yes ma'am, you got it correct. You're going to take that leg off. Now, a lot of times what I do is as soon as I take that leg off, I'll reach back and I'll pet my horse while they're doing it. I'm still loping though, by golly, you see. But when they're loping and they're on the correct lead, that becomes part of their reward. Now, here's another thing I will do though. I'm not going to lope their lungs out. I'm just going to let them lope enough just to know that that's more comfortable. And then I'm going to stop and let them air up. And then I'm going to try again. Let's ask that same question again. And let's say that the first time they cross-cantered, say for 3/4 of a round or even a whole round of the arena before they corrected herself. Then the next time I'm looking for doing it a little bit less. Before you know it, they'll really associate that leg coming over. Now, another thing I might do is I might exaggerate and be more deliberate, is what you hear me say a lot of times. Horses are so honest, they're going to tell you what their mistakes are most likely going to be. I'm pretty weak to the left lead, so I might end up picking the left lead up in the front end, but I might pick the right lead up in the back end. Okay, thanks for telling me. So how can I help you with that? Well, maybe I could put you in a more canted position before I ask you to lope. I'm going to make it really difficult for you to get the incorrect answer because I'm going to ask you the same question much more deliberately. In other words, I might look at the child and say, read my lips. 1 plus 1 is 2. In other words, I try to make it so obvious that the kid can't miss it. Does that make sense to you? I want to just break it down for those horses where it's so easy. And let that, let the difficult stuff, let it be their problem, not mine.